My name is Sulin. I am the former senior xenobiological field officer of the Galactic Survey Corps 7th Expedition Division. I have filed 41 mission reports across 19 star systems. I have catalogued life forms on gas giant moons, survived pressure events on Kelroth 9, and once accidentally insulted a Mirth diplomat so badly he tried to eat my helmet. None of that, prepared me for Earth. I am delivering this testimony today because the Council asked me to. Specifically, they asked me to explain in plain terms why Earth's planetary danger classification was upgraded from Category 2C, moderately hostile, observation permitted, all the way to Category 7 Omega. Do not land, do not orbit below 400 kilometers, do not make radio contact during their sporting events. I will explain, but first, I want everyone in this chamber to understand something. When we were assigned to Earth, we were not worried. We had the initial survey data. We had the preliminary atmospheric scans. We knew about the humans. Soft-bodied, slow reproductive cycle, no natural armor, no venom glands, no echolocation, no thermal sensing, no claws worth mentioning. On paper, humans are the weakest apex predator in the known galaxy. On paper. Let me tell you what happened on day 1. We landed in a region humans call North America. The biome classification read, temperate deciduous forest. Our instruments said, mostly harmless, mild predator presence, deer, squirrels, some kind of striped mustelid, low threat. Our field technician, a young officer named Prior Varney, who had never been on a planetary survey before and was frankly very excited about the whole thing, stepped off the lander ramp. He made it approximately 4 meters before something the size of my forearm dropped out of a tree and attached to his neck. We later learned this creature is called a tick. It is apparently completely normal. It happens all the time. Humans know about it. They have a routine for removing it. They have little tools specifically designed for tick removal. They sell these tools at stores. They sell them right next to the bread. That was the first moment I thought something was wrong with this planet. We performed the removal. Pry was fine. We applied a repellent compound to our suits. We moved on. Day 2, we decided to observe a human settlement. A small one. A town. Very picturesque. Little structures, paved pathways, vehicles everywhere. We positioned our cloaked observation drone above the central area. There was a park. In the park, humans were walking their domesticated pack animals. These pack animals, we learned, are called dogs. The survey notes described them as loyal companions, non-threatening and less provoked. What the survey notes did not mention was the specific dog we were watching, which was a breed humans call a Great Dane, which is essentially a small horse that has been given emotional problems and which was currently dragging its owner across the grass at a speed that would have qualified as a minor emergency on most civilized worlds. The owner was laughing. They were laughing. I marked this in my field notes. Humans appear to find physical danger amusing. Cross-reference psychological profiling data. Possible explanation. Neural damage from atmospheric composition. There was no neural damage. This is just how humans are. We moved our observation zone. We began to study human food culture because nutrition assessment is standard protocol. And also because our cultural liaison officer, a very enthusiastic woman named Dresserfal, had become convinced that human cooking was, in her words, the most reckless act of sustained chemistry she had ever seen. She was not wrong. Humans take foods that are, on their own, perfectly edible, and then they combine them with foods that are, on their own, toxic. They heat things to temperatures that would concern a metalworker. They ferment things. They age things. They eat fish that has been buried in the ground for months and consider it a delicacy. But none of that, none of it, compared to what we witnessed on day 4. Day 4, we received a new directive from the Corps. Standard mission adjustment. We were to collect biological samples from large predator species for the galactic catalogue. Earth had several candidates. Bears, large felines, and something called a Komodo dragon that Dresser refused to look at directly. Our mission coordinator, Brix Helan, pulled up the threat assessment data for the region we were surveying, the southeastern portion of North America. He scrolled through the list of local fauna. He stopped. He turned to me. Vor Sulin, he said, in that very careful voice people use when they are about to tell you something that will change your life. This says there are humans who voluntarily enter enclosed bodies of water with sharks. I looked at the data. Cage diving, I read aloud. No cage, Brick said. I looked again. He was correct. No cage. These are humans who decide, on purpose, with full knowledge and understanding of the situation, to swim alongside animals with multiple rows of teeth, eyes that have not changed in 400 million years, and sensory systems so precise they can detect a single drop of biological fluid in an Olympic swimming pool's worth of water. And they do this for fun. They document it. They take photographs. They post the photographs. Other humans look at the photographs and say things like, amazing, incredible, where can I sign up? Bricks and I sat in silence for a very long time. I think I finally said that we may have misclassified the threat level of this world. We classified the environment as the threat, Bricks said slowly. We didn't think about the fact that the inhabitants might also be the threat. And this is the part of my testimony that I want the Council to understand, because everything that came after, every incident, every data point, every moment that made our threat assessment team add another 0 to Earth's danger rating, it all traces back to this fundamental error. We were looking at Earth's dangers as things that could happen to humans. We did not consider, not once, not in any preliminary model, not in any simulation, that humans might be the most dangerous thing on the planet, that they might know it, and that they might like it. On day 6, Dresser approached me in the observation bay. She had been running an analysis of human recreational activities. Her expression was the one I had come to recognize as, I have discovered something deeply alarming, and I am handling it with professionalism. Vor Sulin, she said, I need you to look at something called base jumping. I looked. I closed the file. I opened it again because I assumed I had misread it. I had not misread it. Humans throw themselves off the tallest structures on their planet. Cliffs, buildings, bridges. They use a small folded canopy to slow their descent. The canopy does not always open correctly. They know this. They have a backup canopy. Sometimes the backup does not work either. This happens rarely enough that they consider the activity acceptable. They do it anyway. I filed an emergency mission status report to the Corps that evening. I marked it priority yellow, not because of immediate danger to our team, but because I had realized something that would take me 3 more days to fully articulate. These creatures had taken every threat their environment could produce. Every disease, every predator, every geological hazard, every meteorological event, every biological toxin. And instead of avoiding these things, they had found ways to weaponize the experience of surviving them. They had turned danger into a hobby. And the universe, as far as I could determine, had absolutely no protocol for that. Day 9. I want to be precise about this. Day 9 was not the worst day. Day 9 was the day we stopped being scientists observing a planet and started being survivors trying to understand what exactly we had gotten ourselves into. It began with the honey badger. Priory, who had by this point recovered from the tick incident and had developed what I can only describe as a misplaced sense of confidence, had been tasked with cataloging small to medium-sized terrestrial predators in the region. Routine work. He had his scanner. He had his field kit. He had his suit, which was rated to withstand puncture forces up to 400 newtons. He found the honey badger in a dry riverbed. The honey badger, for those unfamiliar, is a creature roughly the size of a small domestic cat. It weighs, on average, 12 kilograms. It has no significant size advantage over any of its predators. It has no venom. It has no projectile defense. It has no special speed. What it has, and I am reading directly from my field notes here because I want this on the official record, is a complete and total refusal to accept the concept of losing. Pry approached the animal at a respectful distance. Standard protocol. Non-threatening posture. No sudden movements. He activated his scanner. The honey badger looked at him. Pry looked at the honey badger. The honey badger made a sound that our audio analysis system, a system capable of parsing 47 known languages and 212 animal communication frequencies, classified simply as aggressive. And then it charged. Not away. Not sideways. Directly at Pry, at his legs. It went for the legs first. And when the suit material resisted its initial attempts, it did not stop and reconsider the situation. It did not retreat and reassess. It made a sound our audio system now classified as more aggressive, and it tried harder. Pry ran. I want to be clear. Priory had a postgraduate degree in xenobiology. He had survived a pressure event on Kelroth 9. He had once accidentally made eye contact with a Vorath deep predator and lived to write a paper about it. He ran from the 12 kilograms animal. Screaming. The honey badger chased him for 240 m before losing interest and returning to the riverbed. Pry did not speak for the rest of the day. He filed for a transfer the following morning. But here is what I noted in my field report. Here is the thing that elevated Day 9 from an unusual incident to a critical reclassification event. When I reviewed the regional fauna data afterward, I found something. I found documentation, multiple sources, human sources, scientific literature, wildlife reports, anecdotal accounts, all agreeing on one fact. Lions avoid honey badgers. Lions, the large feline predators, the ones with the manes and the teeth and the social hunting structure that makes them one of the most effective land predators on the planet. Those lions, they avoid honey badgers. Not because the honey badger can kill a lion. It cannot. Not because the honey badger is faster or stronger or more numerous. It is none of these things. They avoid it because the honey badger will not stop. It will not give up. It will keep fighting past the point where any rational creature would have accepted defeat, retreated, and found a more reasonable opponent. The honey badger operates on a frequency that predators much larger than itself apparently find deeply unnerving. I sat with this information for a long time, and then I looked at the humans again. I pulled up every combat record we had on file, every historical conflict, every documentary we had managed to download from their communication networks. I watched humans fight other humans. I watched them fight animals. I watched them fight weather events, disease outbreaks, collapsing buildings, flooding, fire, things that, by any sensible galactic standard, should have ended their civilization 3 separate times. They did not stop. Not once in their entire recorded history did humans, as a species, simply accept that they had lost and move on. They had been hit by extinction-level asteroid events, not the famous one that removed their large reptilian megafauna. There had been others, multiple orbital impactor events. Each one was supposed to be the end. Each one was not. They had developed diseases that should have collapsed their population structure. Diseases that spread through contact, through air, through water. Diseases with mortality rates that would have caused most spacefaring civilizations to evacuate the planet and sterilize it from orbit. Humans built hospitals. They figured out what was killing them. They learned how it worked. They developed counters. They turned the knowledge of their own mortality into a science so precise they could now, in their current technological era, manufacture diseases from scratch in a controlled environment specifically to understand how to kill diseases. They were creating threats so they could learn to survive threats. I need you to understand what that means. The Council, I know, has reviewed the clinical summary. I need you to understand it the way I understood it. Sitting in our observation bay on Day 9, watching video footage of a human in a laboratory coat holding up a flask of something luminous and dangerous and smiling. They did not conquer their world despite its dangers. They became what they are because of those dangers. Every hostile organism, every geological instability, every atmospheric event, every catastrophic winter, every drought, every flood, every predator with more natural advantages than they had. These things did not eliminate humans. They trained them. Millions of years of selection pressure, the planet's entire ecosystem constantly trying to remove them from the equation. And the result was not extinction. The result was us having this conversation. On Day 11, Brix Helan made a decision. He wanted to make direct, brief, non-disclosed contact with a single human subject to verify certain behavioral assumptions we had formed. Not official first contact. Observational interaction. Standard intelligence gathering. He chose a location in a human settlement, a small establishment where humans go to consume beverages and socialize. He adjusted his appearance using our standard camouflage protocols. He sat down. A human sat across from him within 4 minutes. This human, whose name we later determined was Garrett Voss, was a middle-aged male of average height and unremarkable physical build. He worked, according to the identification materials we scanned, in something called municipal water management. He had, by all external measures, the most non-threatening profile possible. Garrett Voss looked at Brix for a moment. "You're not from around here," he said. Brix told him he was visiting from a region far away. Garrett nodded. He ordered something called a lager. He offered to order one for Brix. Brix declined. He engaged in the standard conversational probe protocol, asking questions designed to assess cognitive baseline, threat recognition capacity, and territorial instinct. Garrett answered all of them cheerfully and accurately. And then, at the end, he leaned forward and said something that Brix transmitted back to our ship word for word. "You know, you ask really interesting questions for a tourist. My daughter's the same way. She's studying marine biology. Last month she went diving with great whites off the coast. Didn't tell me until after, which was probably smart." He paused. He sipped his lager. "She sends me photos. I pretend I'm not terrified." Brix came back to the ship and sat down next to me. "They know," he said. "What do you mean?" "They know they're in danger all the time. The diving, the jumping, the animals, the diseases." He paused. "They know. They're not oblivious. They're not broken. They understand the risk, and they go anyway." I looked at him. "Because they also know," he continued quietly, "that the thing that makes them worth anything is the going anyway." I did not put that in my official report. I put it here in this testimony because I think it is the most important thing we learned on Earth. Not the danger rating. Not the reclassification. Not the 17 specific incidents that filled the appendix of our final mission file, including the one with the fire ants, the one with the individual human who repaired electrical systems while those systems were still active and described this as just how it's done, and the deeply confusing afternoon we spent watching a sporting event called rugby, which appeared to be organized violence governed by extremely specific rules that the participants both followed precisely and ignored completely, depending on whether they thought the referee was watching. No. The most important thing we learned was this. The universe had been classifying planets by the threats those planets produced. We had been measuring danger in fangs, in toxins, in atmospheric hazards, and tectonic instability. We had never once thought to measure a species by what it was willing to walk toward. Earth's danger rating is Category 7 Omega. It will remain Category 7 Omega. Not because of the honey badgers. Not because of the sharks. Not because of the fire ants, the electrical systems, the great white photographs, or the rugby. Because of the species that looked at all of that. Every single piece of it. Every tooth and toxin and geological disaster and airborne pathogen. And decided to stick around and figure it out and then go back for more. I am Vor Sulin, Senior Xenobiological Field Officer, retired. Priory now works in administrative records on Harari Station, and has requested that his file contain no further mention of honey badgers. Dresserfal published 3 papers on human nutritional chemistry and is, as of last year, attempting to replicate something called hot sauce in her personal laboratory. Brix Helan still thinks about Garrett Voss sometimes. He told me so. So do I. That is all I have for this council. Be careful out there, especially if you are anywhere near.